always tough to know that you're in the wrong, right? And, I'm the type that I always want to be right. But I've learned that being right doesn't make you rich all the time. So,
that is a good
way to
quote.
put that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a great quote.
I've learned that from
quote.
I learned that from my mentors. Do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? And I was like, I want to be rich. So.
Hey there. Welcome to the Gluten-Free Organic Thoughts podcast, where you are encouraged to express your natural thoughts and views through casual, meaningful conversations that hopefully can lead to learning and understanding new perspectives. To find out more info, visit www.gfothoughts.com. Now, here are your hosts, Michael Wong and Robert Din. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome back to Gluten-Free Organic Thoughts podcast. This week is a continuation of our great conversation with Superwoman Sondy. Work, kids, family, everything. She does it all.
So if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the like button and smash the subscribe button. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, don't forget to subscribe. Hopefully you enjoy part 2 of this conversation. Alrighty. All right. So, going to resuming back, I know we have a little bit of time with Sondy, but would like to hear about from you, I guess, a little bit more of, personal life perspective, because I feel like, you do a lot of stuff professionally and from a business perspective. How do you, I guess, your relationship with Ben is a little bit different from a lot of relationship because you guys do work together as well as, have the personal life. How do you separate that sometimes? How do you balance that? Because I feel like communication is definitely a key factor, but sometimes it's just hard. Like you mentioned earlier in this conversation, like you guys are okay having, your date nights to talk about business, but sometimes does that bother you or no? I'm just wondering. Or you guys do a really good job balancing that personal life and business life together?
So I know it's something that we're still, I'm working on myself, because a lot of times when we talk about business, I need to make sure I have like a business cap on. But sometimes I don't have that. I think, it's more of a husband and wife, and then I would get very emotional if he's coming at me with a topic. But in his mind, he's like, we're talking about business here. We need to have these things. And I'm just like, why are you yelling at me? Or why are you coming at me? I feel hurt. And he's just like, no, he's like, well, I want to have a business conversation with you. So I had to learn through the years that when we're talking about business, I need to make sure I have my business cap on. And then once a business topic is over, we take that off and then we go more into husband and wife mode. So we have a very different relationship because not a lot of husband and wives may have businesses together. And when it comes to date night, do I mind always talking about business? We don't always talk about business, but I don't mind it because it's what excites us, right? Gotcha. And I think we became two peas in a pod, and everything that we're doing now is building a legacy, building a future for us and for our family. So it's very exciting to talk about, hey, what's next? What do we have going on? What's the goal this year? What's the goal next year? What's the goal 5 years from now? What do you want to get accomplished? Because I feel when we didn't have goals, when we don't have that, we don't have a vision for the future. But then there's days where we're just super goofy and we just enjoy ourselves and listen to, a band play or whatnot. So it's not always business, but we've always had business in the mix because of how our relationship.
So you mentioned emotion, right? How do you, I guess, this always take, over time, right? I mean, the emotion piece of that. How do you realize, or how you, work on it in a sense like, okay, this is straight business. I shouldn't get emotion into this, because sometimes emotion plays a role in business decision. It does.
Absolutely.
It does. Yeah. It just does.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we just learned, and we through a lot of high volume conversations. We learned how to
high volume conversations.
We learned to work with one another. And still we're not perfect to this day. I mean, we still have, I wouldn't say arguments, but we would have discord, and we just have to talk and work it out, and really have to. For me, I'm the type that, hey, give me time. Let me have some time to myself. Let me think things through. Let me reflect. Let me digest everything. And he's the type, he's like, no, let's talk now. Let's go over this now. Tell me what's going on. Tell me what's the problem. And I'm like, get away from me. So we've learned to, he's learned to give me space to to really digest everything. And then I've learned when he needs to talk, like something is important to him, that he just needs everything out and about. So then I will give him the bullets. Hey, this is why I'm upset. This is, we need to work on this. I don't appreciate when you said this. You could have changed it in a different way.
Mhm.
So it's still a work in progress.
No, and I think that's communication, right? So like now you guys are leveling up in the communication piece, I believe. So, and it seems like it's evolved to the better place than than you guys were getting married.
Yeah.
But so like since you guys got married to now, I feel like you guys' relationship has gotten stronger, and at least from the outside perspective, that's what it looks like, at least to me. And looks like the communication aspect has definitely gotten better.
It has.
How
I
long?
think
How long have you guys been together in
we've been
total?
together. So we started dating in 2012, I would say.
Okay.
And then so we've been married since 2014.
Was it
So
14?
close.
Wow.
Yeah,
6 years.
I know
That's
you were a
crazy.
part of the wedding.
I know it's 14. I'm like, it's been 6 years. What? That's crazy.
Yeah, so I think altogether we've been together, I think close like 9 year plus. Um, but our relationship has gotten a lot stronger. And within the 9 years, I think we've only really had an argument maybe 4 or 5 times in the 9 years.
But and they were
So
all his fault, right? So it's fine.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
yeah.
makes sense.
That sounds.
Makes sense.
That sounds right. Like you ask
And they
him, he
were,
says the same thing. He'll say the same thing.
I always tell him, a happy wife is a happy life, babe. He's like, I know. No, but there are
Yeah,
times maybe the argument is more me. So we just learn
yeah,
to
of course.
own up
Yeah,
to, and
it,
then
it,
just move on.
it's hard because, it's hard to be wrong sometimes, and I mean, it's something that I tend to struggle to as well. Just gotta slowly but be more aware of it in a sense, to own up to it, uh, and especially like in a business profession, right? It's kind of from a personal life and a business profession. As you grow and you're trying to, uh, as you try to like learn about yourself more, I feel like I think that's a learning piece, and like for example, like when you try in your I guess when you do your business, right, you try and error, right? How do you realize what's a success piece and what fail, and how do you like move on to the next, right? How do you know like, okay, I was wrong, let's try to do something next? I feel like that's a learning process on its own.
Sorry, Mike, give me 1 minute. I
No
apologize
worries.
for pausing this. Mike,
Dog.
Bailey, I am gonna beat you.
Oh no! Don't say that on the podcast.
Yeah, Robert, you gotta cut that off.
No, we're gonna leave it all in. We're gonna.
I don't really beat my dogs. I just like to scare them. I apologize. The whole time, like when she started, I had to mute myself because Ben
Yeah.
walked into my room and she came in with him. And I
Oh,
gave him a
running.
look to go
Got
away.
it.
Yeah.
No worries.
So, can you please repeat?
Oh no, I was just saying that like when you talk about how you owning up your own mistakes or your problem in a sense, or you're wrong, right? How do you, for example, from a business perspective or even personal, like how do you realize, okay, I'm wrong? How do you or you fail at this? How do you move on from that, right? So I feel like
Yeah.
it goes hand in hand. That's kind of
I
tough.
mean, it's always tough to know that you're in the wrong, right? And I'm the type that I always want to be right.
Guilty.
But I've learned that being right doesn't make you rich all the time. So it's
That's
the
a
saying
good.
that,
That is a
That's a
good
good way to put
quote.
that. Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
that is
Yeah.
a great quote.
I've
That
learned
is a
that
great
from
quote.
I learned that from my mentors. Do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? And I was like, I want to be rich. So I've learned
Wow.
that just because I'm in a business sense with working with Ben, a lot of times I might not. It's I would say there's not a lot of times where I would disagree with the decisions he has to make because he's proven to me that the decisions that he wants to make in business or moving our family forward has always been right. But maybe there's times where I just give him a different point of view, right? And I'll just be like, hey, I'm not sure about this. Hey, can we take a look at from this angle? Maybe ask for another opinion from one of our mentors or somebody that that has been in that space. Um, but there's a lot of times where I could be wrong and I just be like, hey, I'm sorry that I made this mistake. I'm working on it. Let's go ahead and fix it. And I know what I need
Right.
to do to fix it. And we've had these conversations and they're tough. They're so tough and they're so hard, but it's so needed in order to move forward.
I guess it's
I
part of the journey, right? So
It is. And I think, I made a mistake on implementing something to one of So I made a mistake and implement something into our organization that I might not have been at the level that I need to be at. And he just told me, he was like, I'm not saying that you're not good, but why don't you take some, why don't you learn it a lot more? Why don't you learn more of it first and get really comfortable and become an expert at it before you start implementing it into the organization? Because you have to know what you implement is going to really change the course of our business.
Hmm.
So, it was a mistake that I made. I made too prematurely to start doing the implementation. So then I had to be like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I
I've done
didn't
that
like what
actually, to be
he
honest. Yeah.
I didn't like what he had to say, but but it's true. So I
Yeah.
just had to not take it as a negative thing that he was saying, but I just take it as a positive criticism because he
Yeah.
only wants to make me better and have a better
Yeah.
future for our business.
It's kind of hard not to take it negative because especially from a family when you grew up, like, everything was negative in the sense that,
Yeah.
so like it's hard not to take it personal. Also on top of that, um, at least for me, like I've done mistakes where I also implemented the wrong tool and I realized, okay, it doesn't work. But and then my business partner called out on me on that, and I'm like, okay, that's true. But it was hard for me, I guess. If I didn't make that mistake, would have not found the next tool. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So, but also at the same time, like, you always want to be right. But like you said, it makes no sense at that point. Like, you did it wrong, whatever. Move on from it and just learn from it, right? So but it is hard to not to take it personal though.
But I think in any type of business or entrepreneurship, you have to make the mistakes because if you don't make mistakes, that means that you're not growing and you're not finding better ways to improve yourself. And that just means you're not really doing anything for
You're
your
not pushing the
business.
limits,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I never feel like mistakes are a bad thing. I always feel like mistakes are great because
Yeah.
as long as you can learn from it and grow from it, then that's all that matters. And I always tell our group is not about being a perfectionist. It's
Yeah.
just progressing.
Gotcha.
Perfection I don't care about as long as you're progressing in the right areas, you're progressing in the right way, then it's a win-win situation for everyone.
Gotcha. So now, I guess in your mentorship group that that you're trying to mentor, like, do you keep the conversation separately versus professional and personal? Like, do you have different topics, conversation time with them? Because I feel like sometimes it does intertwine. Like, you know, like especially like you and Ben, right? When you talk about from a family personal perspective level, it's different from a professional level. Like, how do you guys envision raising Caleb, right? What kind of school does he want to go to? Like, you guys collab on that, and every you guys do. How do you resolve that conflict?
We do. Well, I'll answer the question when it comes to our group. It depends. It depends on that relationship I have that person. Maybe that relationship I have that person is just more at a business level, then we'll talk more about business. But if it's a deeper level that we have, like some of the girls on my team, they come to me for a lot of different things, and we would talk about that. It's more life stuff versus just business. So it really depends on the person. But when it comes to a family as a whole, Ben and I, we are in agreement with everything that we do, whether it's for Caleb, whether it's for businesses, whether it's for, moving to the next house or which house or properties that we purchase. He always runs it by me and makes sure I'm okay with it before making that decision and making that purchase. Or even when it comes to my day spa, he doesn't run my day spa. He doesn't, go to it or know all the ins and outs about it. But every decision that I make on my day spa, he would know, and he would have to be in agreement with it as well. So
Gotcha.
that I think that's how we do. That's how we run our family. So we will always be on the same page, and there is no. I would say there's no chance for us to have a distrust in one
Of
another.
course, yeah.
Mm.
So I guess that works for your relationship, and not necessarily work for another one, but just because that's how you
Yeah,
guys.
it just works. It works for us. It's
Yeah.
not saying like it's
Hmm.
you should run your relationship this way, but just for us,
Yeah.
it's what worked and
Well,
it's
that's
been
your foundation,
working.
right? That's your
And it's
foundation that you
developed
guys
over
build on.
time, right? Like that's how you
Yeah,
guys have come
absolutely.
together.
Especially when it comes to raising a child, we have to be on the same page. Otherwise, if mommy tells me yes, but then daddy tells me no, or vice versa, the kid gets confused. So
That's
we're
true.
and that's how we want to be a little bit more structured and we want to raise Caleb a certain way because we weren't raised that way. So
Gotcha.
we know what has worked and what hasn't worked for us. And that's what we're, now doing with our kid
So
and
can I
future
ask you?
kids.
Let me ask you a personal question now. So,
Sure.
who's the good parent? Who's the bad parent?
I think I'm more the bad cop. Ben's
Ah,
always the fun one. Every time he sees Ben, he's like the fun dad. He wants to play with him and go
so
to
he's
the
a good
park
guy.
with
I see.
him. Um, but
But
when he
daddy
needs
isn't like that.
comfort and love, he comes to me. But I like if Ben tells him to do something or is very strict with him, he doesn't listen as much. But when I get angry or I give him a certain look,
Oh,
like
he's like us on it. He knows.
he starts
Hmm.
tearing up or he'll be like, I'm so sorry, mommy. So I think I'm the bad
So
cop,
you rule with
unfortunately.
fear. You rule with feir, and here.
There's
I
fear
don't beat
and
him.
love though. There's fear. So she said
He
there's
gets
also
timed
love as
out.
well.
It's that tough love, but
The
no,
tough love. There we go. The
it's a
tough
tough
love.
love.
How
No, but
old?
he
How
straightens
old
up.
is Caleb?
He is 3.
Yeah,
3.
but
Okay.
he's a big
Yeah.
3-year-old though.
He's going
It's a
on
big 3.
13. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's been crazy.
No, no. I was just wondering because I can see Ben being the good guy, right?
I thought he would be the disciplinary one, but he tossed that totem
He's
pole over
soft.
to
He's
me.
soft. He's
He's
soft.
soft.
He is actually he doesn't like to admit it, but he's a softie. But when you look on the exterior, it's
Yeah, I know.
he's a guy that doesn't really shed a tear for anything.
Yeah. I mean, what Asian guy shares tears? Let's be honest.
There's some out there.
Yeah, I know. There are some out there. I'm just saying. I mean, we're not
Are
taught to be
you
emotional.
are you more an emotional person, Robert?
It depends. There's relationships where I was more emotional. There's other ones where I wasn't. So it just depends on the relationship. Maybe it's the girl.
It makes the
Maybe.
girl.
Maybe it's the girl's too not emotional enough, and then I like default to the more emotional one. But
Yeah.
Has it evolved for you, like throughout the different relationships?
it,
Just like,
it evolves in the sense that like I learn more stuff about myself. So then
gotcha.
yeah, like that's it. But like I don't feel like I'm more emotional or less emotional. I just it's it might be like the girls are different, so then they are on a different scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as an Asian guy, like it's hard to be emotional in general, just
You're
because
usually never taught, like that.
Yeah.
that's not what that's what we grow up as like, oh, all of our dads were like military guys, right? They're all like very strict military guys. Like I didn't
Yeah.
like my dad. I never saw my dad cry ever. He would cry like he told me later one time that he cried when my grandma died, but he's like, oh, I
You do it
went
in front of
into
family.
another room
Yeah, you
and
wouldn't do it in front
cried
of
and then
family,
came
right?
back out and was like,
It's the same thing with my dad too.
Yeah.
My parents, my dad would never cry in front of the family.
yeah,
Yeah. My
Just
grandpa
like-
was the same way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just that mentality, right? So,
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
yeah. So anyway, all right. So going back to in terms of balancing personal life, so like you guys go on vacation, and when you guys go on vacation, do you guys work or do you actually try to?
Yeah. How do you turn off when you
Yeah, because
have
it's
like
hard to turn
when
that
you're an
off.
entrepreneur? How do you turn off on a vacation?
I think we do turn it off. Well, it takes us a day or two to really completely turn everything off. But I think our vacation, unless we're out of the country, we still are at fault till doing a little bit of things for our business, right? But we've learned to schedule vacations and we've learned to schedule date nights because we want to build our relationship as a husband and wife.
Gotcha.
Because I think a lot of people, they spend a lot of time focused on their children, which is, there's nothing wrong with it. We still focus on our kid,
Yeah.
but they tend to lack time that
Forget
they
about
spend
it.
for
They
one
just forget the
another.
relationship.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then when the kids grow up and they leave the house and they leave the nest, well, who do you have ending up with? It's your partner, right? The
Yeah.
person who you married. And if you didn't build that relationship throughout the years, then you're kind of left with nothing to talk about or nothing, in common. And I've seen that happen in a lot of my family's members. So we make a cautious effort to always build our relationship, and it's always your faith. For us, it's our faith, our relationship, then our kids.
So that's your value right now.
That's
what
our
you-
value. Yeah. So we've always learned to put a value on one another's time and relationship together, because
Yeah.
one day our kids are going to grow old and
Gotcha.
leave us. And if we don't have a great foundation, if we don't build that, then, we're not going to have a good relationship in the future.
So
when they're
before you
older.
met Ben, was your values similar or different? I'm just curious. I'm just wondering.
Before I met Ben, I think my values were a little bit differently because of how my families were.
Okay.
My family was always kids and then their relationship is always at the bottom because it's
Mm-hmm.
always
Got it.
about the kid first. And I grew up to that, and I thought that's how it's supposed to be until until I met Ben and until I got into the books and until I really got into the mentorship program is when I learned that, hey, if you don't build your relationship with your husband or your wife, well, you might have a rocky future when your kids grow up.
Yeah, and it's not, and it sounds like you enjoyed that challenge, to be honest, too. At the same time, like to make sure that, okay, you follow your own through your value, and then you realign that. And it seems like you're testing it too, as you purposely, like, you make it more aware of it to make sure that you keep doing it, you keep doing it, you keep doing it. So which is, I mean, to be honest, sometimes it's very tough because especially it sounds like, I've talked to friends who like just had a kid, and but let me tell you, their kid's alive, and it's
Hmm.
hard, and then you have to work full time on top of it too, right? So
Yeah.
when both parent works, when you have time for yourself, and it's
Yeah, I
hard to
think
balance it.
we've been very blessed because both of our jobs, his positions and his company, allowed him to work remote, and then my company and my businesses allow me to work remote. So we've
Hmm.
never really missed a whole lot of Caleb's life. So our situation's a little bit different. We're
Yeah.
a little bit more fortunate than some that have to leave their kids on 9 to 5 basis. And then we also have my mother-in-law here helping as well. But even if it wasn't for my mother-in-law, we would still schedule, babysitters to come so we would have a date night because it's important to us. And he knows, one of my love languages is quality time with him, and I need that quality time to feel loved. So there's certain times where I'm like, we may do a lot of things together, but then we didn't have that quality time and be like, hey, tapping him on the shoulder, I think we need a date night kind of thing. And it's just really built us and not talk about really anything else, but just us. Um, but it's important. And I see a lot of my families always put their kids first, and that's their identity. And for me, I refuse to let my kid be my identity. I want an identity on my own. And in the future, they will also have their own identity that they're
that's
chasing
that's a
after.
good way to put that. I guess I never the
That's
way.
true. I
Yeah.
like my parents were always kids first as well.
Same
Hmm.
here.
So like
Hmm.
my parents got divorced twice to each other,
Wait, to
because
each other?
to each other, right? So
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
because they got divorced the first time, and then I don't know what happened, but later on they're like, oh, we're gonna get back together because my sister was too young. So for her, they're gonna get back
Kids.
together, and then later on they're still like, yeah, we still don't work. So then they got divorced
Gotcha.
again. So it's always been like
Is this at this?
kids
I guess when the
first.
second time happened, you guys were already in high school already.
First time I was in middle school. Second time my sister was in high school. Like, I was in college. So yeah, it was
So
like
you grown up at the second time already.
once she was grown up enough, they're like, all right,
Gotcha.
now we
You can meet the family.
reevaluate and we really don't work. So
Yeah.
let's move on.
It's a tough situation in a sense, but I guess when your kids are grown up, I guess it's not as affected because I mean, I think going back to, I think your parents value the kids first, right? That's probably why
Yeah.
your
So like
parents got together.
the kids thing is I don't know. That's probably a
Yeah.
Asian thing where
It
there's
is. It really, well, not necessarily too. I think
yeah.
it's
I
just
don't know.
how they were raised, right?
Yeah.
And how our parents were raised affects how they
It's a
raise their
generation thing, to
kids.
be honest, too.
Yeah.
Part of
It
it.
is. And I wanted to break that generational
Yeah.
curse.
Yeah. Well, it's that because I think they were also, keep in mind, I think the generation, and our parents, they were focused more about providing the necessities first, and they didn't have the spare time. They were focused about the necessities of just to
Yeah.
survive in life.
I mean, there's no
Um,
right or wrong,
mhm.
right? I mean, they did the best. Like, I have to
Like
look
they
at
could,
it like
yeah,
they did the best that they could to
Hmm.
provide for us, and that's all that they knew.
correct,
So I never, want to punish my mom for doing what she
of
could to
course,
raise me
yeah,
to the best of
hmm,
her ability that she had. But it's just so that I had different accesses and we have
yeah.
different,
Well, and they want a
perspectives.
better future for us, and we have a better future for it, and we just take
Hmm.
it now that we have the advantage of that. We want to make sure we don't repeat their mistakes, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now you mentioned before Sunday is your me time. What do you do in me time? Just wondering.
Sunday family time, it would be consistent of taking Caleb to the park or
Uh-huh.
zoo, really doing family stuff. And then when he goes down in bed, Ben and I would actually watch a movie
Mhm.
or, we would watch like a documentary or something along that line, just something fun that's not necessarily business related.
So you guys only spend time watching TV on Sundays only? No.
Yeah.
Wait, so
Sundays
do you
only?
don't watch all like the hyped TV shows that are out there? You don't have all those?
The only TV show that we really got into was Game of Thrones. And
That's
that's only
it?
once a week, and we'll just watch
It's
it
also
not when it
Sunday. That
airs,
was a
It's
but
only
we
Sunday.
Sunday. It's only Sunday.
That
it's
was
on
Sunday.
Sunday. Yeah, so we'll only
Wow.
watch. So we don't really watch a whole lot of TV, to be
I
honest.
mean Netflix.
On Sundays, like movies on
Oh,
Sundays.
okay, gotcha. But nothing
Yeah.
like you don't watch like Ozark, anything like that, TV show stuff like
We
that.
did
Like
Ozark, but we really train ourselves to only watch it once a week, and it's hard. It's so hard. I mean, sometimes we cheat and we'll do like Saturday night, but
gotcha.
we're just so busy, and the time that we have, like, we might sound really boring, but the downtime we have before we go to bed, we would read a book together, like different, like he'll read his book, I'll read my book, and
That's
then we
nice
would go
though.
to bed.
That's kind of nice.
So
That's not nice having the bill. to be
yeah, so
honest.
so you said Sunday is like family night, but what do you do like to
For your me time,
like
for
me
yourself.
time? Like
Yeah,
that's
what is your
For
me
me
different,
time?
right?
time, yeah. So sometimes, if I'm just having a really long week or really long
Mhm.
month, I need some me time. I would schedule a day for me to hang out with my girlfriends and just really have dinner and enjoy and like spend some friend like spend some time there.
Fly to Tampa for the weekend for the party.
Yeah. Or when I have to go out to my day spa on the weekend, if I need to go out there for a Saturday, then I would go out there, and that's kind of like my me time because I don't have to worry about Caleb, I don't have to worry about Ben. It's just me time, be in the space that I love, in the beauty space that I love. So
Or
that
not
to me is a
necessarily
me
being
time.
alone. Not necessarily
Right.
being alone. It's just being away from that environment.
Well, alone time would be before COVID is scheduling an hour and a half, 2 hour massage session.
There we go. So what is your alone time now? In COVID now.
Alone time now would be when Caleb goes down for his 2.5 hour nap. I have some time for myself to do what I like, whether it's organizing my closet, doing some cleaning, or even
Wait,
just
organizing your closet is something you like?
yeah.
It's my closet needs help. Okay, I'm gonna ask Ben to borrow
Wow.
a little bit. I'm just kidding. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
Or
that might be helpful. Yeah. Hey, if
or
you
my
really
me time
love
would be-
closets, I got a big one.
You really love closets?
I only like my closet because I like everything to be color coordinated and things like that. Or I would spend time. I would go to a grocery store and buy things and figure out what I want to cook because I love cooking. So
Yeah, you
that's
do love cooking.
that's me.
By the way,
time.
Robert, she has some amazing cooking skills.
Oh, really?
Yeah, follow her on IG. Let me tell you, it's some crazy. Oh, but she's a super foodie too. She has time to find foodie places and find the best food to eat and cook. I don't even know how you have time to cook. So Robert, by the way, Sandy, Robert hates cooking to a certain degree because it takes too long.
It takes too long.
No.
I don't.
No.
I
don't hate it. You
I
just
I,
like it.
I just feel like I should be eating more, like enjoying it more than doing it. Like
Well, I have easy 15-minute recipes for you.
Oh wow! All right, and I started a so I did a IG live where I was like, because I like never cooked anything, so then I went into like, oh, I'll do an IG live during
So
COVID.
Sean got to us a HelloFresh.
Yeah, and just like
Okay.
follow recipes and start learning how to cook. And I wanted to like, and I stopped it because HelloFresh is twice a week. It's too much time, and if you have 15-minute meals, I could do this every Saturday, and just that could be the season 2 of my
There
Well,
we
I
go.
of
have
my
meals
cooking
that
show.
will require like all like day work. Like if I cook like pho or like I make anything
Yeah, that's true.
traditional,
But
it
you're
takes
good
a
at
lot more
prepping though.
time.
You're good at prepping. That's the thing.
But when it comes like I can just throw things together really quickly. I think my meals doesn't take more than 30 minutes of anything. The quickest has been like anywhere between 10 minutes to 15 minutes. The longest has been an hour, and anything in between is between 20 to 30 minutes.
What do you prep stuff ahead of time? Like you had the veggies cut ready.
Well, I multitask. So I have the stove. Like if I'm making pasta, I have the pot already running for the pasta. Pasta's ready, and prep everything that I need. Sauce is already cooking. Toss everything in. Meats in the oven. So I have everything going at the same time. So when things are finished, you just combine that dish together, and voila.
But when you prep your veggies, when you cut the tomatoes, when you cut the peppers and stuff like that, like
As the water is boiling,
So
or
by
as
that-
I'm putting the water down for the.
See, that's not
pasta
enough
and
time for me.
prepping.
That's not enough time for me.
well, Robert. First of all, you need to learn how to cut in the knife skill set.
I know how to cut. You get a knife, you like slice it.
Chop it, right?
Yeah, that's it. Done. Like, what do you mean? I need knife skills.
Yeah,
No,
I
I
haven't been
understand.
cooking as much lately, so Ben was just asking me the other day, "Hey, are you gonna cook a little bit more?" And I'm like, If I'm not as tired, I will.
Yeah, so
Maybe we should do a collab where like you come and like teach me how to cook
there we
something that
go.
you're
No,
doing.
we should do a collab of I teach you virtually how to cook. You lay all your ingredients. We have
Mm-hmm.
There
the
we
same
go.
ingredients, same tools, and I walk you step by step on how
Yeah,
to cook
Yeah,
a
that
15
that'd be
would
minute
be
good. That
great.
meal.
would
I
be
would
really
totally
good.
love that. Yeah.
Yes.
All
So
right,
that way
we're gonna
you
set
send,
this up.
yeah, you send up, Sandy sends you a recipe of the ingredients first, and you have
Mm-hmm.
it ready to go and prep
Yeah.
ready to go. There we go.
Okay,
And I'll
I think
teach you
this
15-minute meals.
15-minute meals. I think this is gonna be
There we
good.
go. All right. Well, Sandy, listen, I know you. We appreciate your time. We're taking too much of your time of your Saturday already. I know you have a busy schedule. We know that, and so,
Yeah, we
but anything
appreciate
you,
you coming on.
No,
yeah.
thank you for having me on. It's been fun.
So to end this episode, you have anything to rant? Just wondering.
Um, so yes, I feel like the one thing that I do want to rant on is everything that's going on right now in society. I
Oh,
feel like everyone
yeah.
should have their own opinions and everyone can have their own thought process, but why can't we have different thought process but still be friends? Why
And
does
talk
it have to
and
be
actually talk about it without being hurt.
correct? Like we can have conversations and have disagreements, but then why should it be all the way to extreme where it ruins a friendship or your friendship ends because of a certain viewpoint, right?
Yeah.
I know there are certain viewpoints that are important, but let's just say like in generality, like don't let that get ruin a friendship. Don't
Yeah.
let that ruin,
It's
a
hard. I guess
relationship.
it's hard to come. Okay, I think especially with the whole, environment right now. I mean, especially that we may be more divided than ever, right?
Hmm.
It's hard not to be emotional. I think that's how they get away with it.
A
That's how the
lot of
system
it
gets away
is
with it.
people put their opinions as themselves and they don't like they like that's their value. So like
What do you mean? Like,
if you're questioning what they believe, then you're
uh,
questioning themselves, right? Like who they are. So they get
you're
very
challenging
emotional
them.
in that way
But it's crazy because it's just like I have a like if we have different faiths, right? I would respect your opinion on your faith, but I'm not going to push my faith on you. And I hope you have that same mutual respect for me,
Yeah.
but we can still be friends because at the end of the day, we're still good people,
Yeah.
right? Just because our faith is a little bit different or our viewpoints are a little bit different, that's just something
So
I want to
actually,
rant
Sunny,
on
you want
because
something
I
funny? Like,
what
this is why we started this podcast because I think me and Robert, like, we saw that people were not having conversation or casual conversation about anything, and it's kind of like, and we talked about it in small different group chat, and we're like,
we
we
saw it's
talking
so
about,
divisive. Like
yeah, it's
everything is
so
so
divisive.
divisive.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
But like really we all really kind of believe the same thing. It's just how we go about it and
yeah,
how to do anything. So if we could just talk it out, it might be
yeah.
easier and
It
we
But
all
some
is.
like get
people
a,
don't
But
like
some
want to
people
talk
don't
it
want to
out.
talk it out and they
Yeah,
get
some people,
very like
yeah,
argumentative.
hmm,
Like I know I have a friend of mine and I know her viewpoint, I know her opinions. I
yeah,
don't agree with 100% of it, but she's the type that you can't talk to her about it because she's so opinionated and then it just causes a rift in the
mm,
relationship. So I just don't even bother. I just let it be and I don't even touch upon that subject.
so the thing is that I feel like that's also part of because so for me I also have a friend like that, but I also realize that I may not understand where he comes from because his background, the way he grew up, the way he sees things, I may not have that understanding. So we actually had a hard talk about it because once understood what his background was and I guess where he grew up, the way he was raised, and the way I'm like, okay, I can understand now what he's really viewing, and then I didn't make him question his belief, but I just made him question like, okay, why did you think this way? Because they I mean, same way for me, right? Because we grew up the way we think certainly differently, and the way our environment affect us. We maybe lucky enough that we built more awareness of it, and
Mm-hmm.
then we realize, okay, our opinions are not facts, obviously, and so, but how do we realize, okay, this is our value? How do we stand behind it? And and then sometimes our value might be wrong because, and that's how you evolve as a human being, right? It's
mm-hmm.
okay to be wrong, and but I feel for certain folks, they may not have evolved to that stage yet to be ready to talk about it, and it's hard. It's definitely a hard conversation to have, uh, and out of especially recently on a road trip I just took, me and my friend were just talking about like, it's just a tough conversation to have, and some people just are scared. They're not vulnerable enough, and I think vulnerability is a topic that no one really touches on as well.
Mm-mm. Because people feel like being vulnerable is weak,
Is
and that's not
weakness.
true
Yeah.
at all. It's not a weakness being vulnerable, but
Yeah,
that's another whole
the
another
whole
topic,
conversation. I know, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
whole another
Right.
conversation. But I just feel like, we
yeah,
are all, we're all in this together, and we all just want to make the world a better place. And
that's
in my
true.
opinion, I hope you want to make the world a better place. So
Yep,
our country was founded on different viewpoints, but it's
yep,
still flourished to where it is now. So
correct.
why are we in such a discord?
Diversity is our strength. That's the thing.
Yes, diversity is our strength.
Yeah.
And if we don't have diversity, then I don't think we would have the society that we do
We're doing
today.
today. That is true. Yeah, that's a good
Hmm.
way to put that. So, Robert, what's your then the rant?
I had something very similar, but like honestly thinking about it, it's not really a vent. It's more that like we need to listen to each other, um, because I don't know. At work, we've had some internal turmoil, uh, with some like political talk and things like that.
Did somebody post up in Slack by accident and wrong post?
It's I don't know. Like it was like the company wants to be apolitical, but then the people there don't want to be apolitical, and
Ah,
things like
the
that. But it's
division, I guess. The
yeah,
division.
it's a very to me it's a very San Francisco thing to like want your company to believe the same things that you do, whereas like everywhere else I've worked, it's like the company is its own thing. We don't talk about politics there, but like we can talk socially,
Yeah,
like individually. Um, but like it's been very
it's a
yeah,
touchy subject.
it's a touchy subject for sure. But honestly, like every time I've talked to anybody, um, at my company, even if they don't agree with me, it's always been very uh, I don't know, like very easy. Like it's easy talk where like we talk about what we believe in, and then we all just agree to disagree. It's not really like we're not really like uh enemies, right? It's more just
Yeah,
talking things through. So I feel
yeah,
like having safe spaces where people can talk is important. But like when you're but it's a lot of it is like when you're one on one, it's so much easier to talk things through.
yeah.
Whereas when you're in a group of this safe space, a lot of the noise is like very one
But
sided.
also keep in mind is I think it's the trust factor, right? In one on one, sometimes you may have the trust factor there with somebody to talk about it, and you feel safe, and you're only worried about one person's perspective versus six people perspective.
No, but
Right.
I get it. No, we have like a Slack channel with like 700 people, right?
Wow.
And
Yeah,
then
Yeah,
there's
that's
like
not a safe space.
yeah,
no, and no, but like that's a safe space where people just come and talk. But when someone posts something, that's contrary
the belief of the
to the
company
belief
or
of the
yeah,
group, then
the group
it gets like hit
attacked.
upon,
It gets
attacked.
attacked.
But
Yeah,
then when you talk to people like one on one, even if I've never met this coworker before in my life,
yeah,
it's very congenial. Like we get along, and then we
yeah,
like, oh okay, we like understand each other's side. So like it's weird that a safe space doesn't really feel safe a lot of the times.
yeah. That's tough.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It sucks
Even
though.
though like one on one, you could always like end up like being okay.
yeah,
It just doesn't feel like it.
But I think in a group setting, it's really hard to state what you truly feel and how your views are,
yeah,
because you're going to be afraid and getting judged by so many people and having
Uh,
criticism by so
yeah.
many people versus a
Especially and you're new to the
one-on-one.
company, right? If you're new to the company, you're like even more like you're okay. Do I go along with this group or do I not? Popularity.
Honestly,
No,
for me,
seriously.
I don't care about that stuff.
I'm just saying like
But
it
I
does
like,
Like for
though.
me, but like there are
It's
people
like
that are
high
like
school over
that.
again. You know what I mean, Sandy? Like you know what
yeah.
I'm talking about? Like
I
it
always
does.
feel like business and company should always just be a business and company. You value their views and
I
you
to-
have their values,
I
and then
totally
just keep
agree.
what your views separately,
That's
because
true.
if you try to intertwine both, it just gets so messy.
I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. But you know, like some people don't feel the same way.
Yeah. All right. So my vent and rant's not like related to that. I sent you guys a photo. That's my vent right there.
Your photo is your
A
vent.
photo.
Yes.
Oh no.
So that's my laptop hinge. That's what I was telling you about
You
earlier.
do need a new laptop.
No. So
Let
every
me show the
time.
people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please. So I'm mad. Okay. First. Okay.
Is
So
this
there's
your
one
laptop?
the hinge. You see how the door the monitor?
Uh
So every
huh.
time it's close, it cracks open more. But every time I pull back, it cracks the other way around. So it's the hinge that broke off, I guess, in the backside. And so I have I guess slowly dead pixel coming on my bottom right corner monitor now, and I'm kind of mad about it because the warranty expired in May this year, and this just happened literally a week and a half
No,
ago.
that's good management by them. Like,
I know, right?
as soon
I'm
as your
so
warranty's
mad.
done, it
Like, damn
dies.
you,
Like, that's
Costco.
perfect. Wow, that sucks.
Yeah, so I've been looking for new laptops now, and then on top of that, in June, my graphic card on this laptop died. So I'm
That's
using
true.
the graphic card. So I'm like, every falling part of this laptop.
What kind of laptop is it? We're gonna call it out.
I'm gonna
Tell
call it
everyone
out.
not
It's an
to.
Acer Nitro 5, with the GTX graphic card 1050. It's an i5
Acer.
7th generation. Yeah,
Acer, what a trash company.
I bought it at Costco too. I was like, the Costco warranty expired literally on May. I was so
Oh, that sucks.
Man, that
Yeah.
stinks.
All right. Well, Sandy, anything you want to plug in to let people know how they can find you? So we
Yeah,
know that
I mean, people can find me on Instagram pretty,
above, right? So above is there's
Yeah,
Instagram
we have your
handle.
Instagram on camera on screen.
Yep. But I think, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, and then you plug in your brand. How they can find your brand, Lux in.
Oh, Lux Inc. They can go on www.lux.inc.com or -inc.com, or the handle for the Instagram is lux.inc. And then if anybody's ever in Manhattan and wants to get beautiful at the Medical Day Spa, they're more than welcome to. We're located in the Soho Chinatown area. Obviously, we're appointments only because of COVID right now, so very strict on, not letting walk-ins come
There we
through.
go.
Perfect.
Well, again, we appreciate having you on, and congrats on your second child.
Thank
And
Yeah,
you.
congratulations.
I'm pretty sure. Obviously, you probably don't know the gender yet, right?
I paid extra for the blood test to tell me the sex
No,
chromosome
you
because
did?
I want to find out really quickly what I'm having.
Okay.
I'm super nervous.
Okay. So you haven't found out yet, right?
I'm supposed to get it on Friday, but I haven't seen anything come through, so I'm about to call them and be like, "What's up?"
Well, just make sure you don't have a gender review party outside.
Yeah,
I don't think-
don't start a fire because of it. We had that in California.
I don't think I'm able to have a gender review party because I'm such an anxious person that I just need to know right away. And a gender review party is too much planning and time that will take away from me knowing quicker.
There you go. Well, again, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Okay. For those who are watching us on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button and smash the subscribe button.
Smash that
And,
subscribe button.
Yeah, and for those who are listening, just please subscribe and share this podcast with everybody.
Yeah, and leave some comments if you have. And if you want, you can go to our website and watch all of
right.
our podcasts there.
You just launched a website at
gfothoughts.com.
gfothoughts.com. Yep.
Well, thanks guys for having me on. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of
Appreciate it.
fun.
Until
Yeah.
next time. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Bye.
Peace.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Gluten Free Organic Thoughts podcast. As always, we appreciate you. If you are watching us on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this episode, and leave us a comment. If you are listening to us, please leave us your honest review on your preferred podcast listening platform. And as always, you can find us on social media at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GFOT Thoughts. Drop a comment and give us some feedback. We would love to hear from you. Until next time, see you then.